Okay, it's time to go to our fitting. Grab your fitting bag. Let's go. You don't have a fitting bag? What's in my fitting bag? Oh, well, you have to have a fitting bag. So let me share with you what I put in my bag so that I'm prepared for my fitting. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Trisha, your pattern nerd friend. I am the owner of Creative Costume Academy. Today we're going to be talking about what should be in your fitting bag. This is what I take to every fitting to make sure that I have what I need to get the information that I need. A lot of times I don't have a whole lot of time in the fitting, so all of these things help me go through the fitting faster. Why do I know so much about fitting and what am I talking about? If you are new here, welcome. I have been a professional costume maker for over 20 years. I make costumes for big theatrical productions, so a lot of times I am having to run onto backstage or meet the performers wherever they are, when I'm going on tour, helping a tour get opened. I have done fittings in all kinds of random places, so I just have a bag that has everything that I need. This lovely bag was made by one of my students, Linda. We'll try to see if I can tag her because she sells these, and aren't they the coolest? It's got like the zipper thing. I'll show you. Anyway, back to the goodies, what's inside. I am very comfortable doing fittings on the fly, and over the years have developed a couple of tools that help me to do things a little faster. The number one thing that you need in your fitting bag or your fitting kit, safety pins, lots of them. This is for some reason a big eye-opener for a lot of people, because we're so used to using our straight pins when we sew. I'm usually put in a situation where I'm fitting several people at one time. So if I used straight pins, not only am I more likely to stab someone, I usually do a fitting and then I'm like, okay, let's take that off and next person, and I set it to the side and I don't look at it until I leave and go back to the studio and fix the pattern. But if I were to use straight pins, everything that I did in the fitting would fall out. So safety pins allow it to stay in place, give me the information that I need, and then I can go back to it when I have time to get into the alterations that need to happen. What you really always want to have on hand is a measuring tape. It might be a matter of, oh, I just need, an inch more here would tell me, that's always really helpful, but having a measuring tape will help you. If you have to take a measurement of something, like maybe they're wearing a big hat and you want to know how big it is to make sure the hole's big enough, who knows what you're going to need, but having a measuring tape is vital. Next up is marking tools. If it's a mock-up and I am never going to really make this into a real costume or garment, then I would use markers because they show up really well. I can get a bunch of different colors and say, I started with this, but I actually don't like that line. Let's go with the green lines now. So those are really great. But if you are fitting something that you want to have to be the actual end-all be-all garment costume, that's not going to work so well. So I love this chalk tool. It's so great. It's like a retractable, almost like a mechanical pencil, but it's for chalk. And this guy that I have in there is just a little nub. The great thing about it is it comes with all these colors and with whites. It's my favorite chalk tool. So same thing, if I'm working on something dark, I can use a lighter chalk, and if it's something that's lighter, I can go with like a yellow or a light blue, and it'll still show up. It does come off most of the time, but not before you're wanting it to. But if you are using something that's very delicate, you do want to be very mindful that it could take a minute to wash it out. But chalk is my go-to best friend when I'm doing a fitting. Another thing I like to have in my bag is grosgrain ribbon. And this is little cut pieces that I've already cut. And, I thought this was ribbon. This is actually elastic, which I use for the same reason. Usually I like to have just a roll of this grosgrain ribbon so I can make it as long as I want. The great thing about this is if something's too small, a waistband's too small, I need to open up a side seam and add more than I have. In the fitting, I just want to know how much do I need to add. So if I were to open a side seam and pin it in that I need that amount, then I can just leave that pinned in. That tells me the information that I need to know. It's also helpful because the person who I'm fitting can really feel what it's going to be like when I have that extra space in there. Now, if it's a finished garment already, I'll have to get creative with the design, make it look intentional if I don't have more of that fabric. If I do have more of that fabric, then it's just information that tells me how much I need to add in that area. But I use this all the time, so I always have some ribbon handy with me when I'm going to a fitting. Now that works great for woven clothing. If you're working with knits or stretch, then that's where you're gonna want elastic, and it works in the same way. You can open up a side seam and pin in elastic, because the fabric that you're gonna have to put in there is going to be stretched. Now, if the fabric you're gonna put in there is not stretched, then I would suggest using your grosgrain ribbon. So I usually like to have both of these on hand when I'm going to do a fitting. Lastly, the thing that I always like to have, and this is just kind of work attire in general for me, is a pair of snips. I prefer snips over seam rippers. That's just my personal preference. So these are fine tip snips, and I can get in there and open up a seam if I need to. And I also wear them around my neck. It can be dangerous. You want to be careful not to like catch it on something, which can be kind of tricky when you're fitting and moving around a lot. But that way I have them on me, I can let them go, and then my hands are free to do what I need to do. But I can get in there and unpick something if I need to, and then let it go, and then go back to my pins and everything else. Another thing that's good to have on hand that I don't always have, if you get little oak tag cards for writing alterations, that's another really handy thing, so that you can write the alterations that need to happen on that particular garment, and then hang that tag with the garment so that you know exactly what needs to be done to that with the alterations. And that's the gist. I mean, there's other things that it depends what I'm doing. If you have some extra scrap of the fabric, if it's something that you've made, that can be very helpful in lieu of the grosgrain ribbon or the elastic that I mentioned earlier. But if you don't have that, or you forget it, that's why having the ribbon and the elastic will really help you in a pinch, because you just gotta get that information as fast as possible. And just to show you with my kit being open, isn't this cool? Like, it's got all these little zipper pockets. So you zip them all, and it keeps things separated while they're in there, and then you can zip up either side, and it keeps it all nice and handy. It's the coolest bag. I also have used this zipper pouch before for this is my previous fitting bag. Oh my gosh, something just spoke to me. I usually just have all of my tools ready to go, so if I need to run out to a fitting, I'm ready. Hopefully that helps you. What is in your fitting bag? Is there anything that you have in your fitting bag that I didn't mention? Or if you're curious about something that I did mention, you're like, why would I ever need that? Let me know in the comments down below. I love to hear from you. If you enjoy this kind of information, you want to learn more about my fitting, sewing, pattern making tips, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and helps me to make more of these videos. Turn on those notifications. You'll hear whenever a new video drops. Please share this with your friends if you think that they would benefit from this information also. That's all we have for you this week for Tricky Thursday. I will see you next time.